7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3. Howdy, CROC Nation. Dr. Tommy and Ellie here with you with another amazing CROC podcast. Amazing because of me? Absolutely not. Amazing because of you guys? Absolutely. Amazing because of my co-host, Angel Santana from Have Faith, Let It Begin? Absolutely 100%. Angel Santana, good to see you back from the dead. You're looking good. Your eyes look less glassy. Your voice sounds better. Thank God you're the miracles of modern medicine, as they say.
Listen, we don't sugarcoat here. Number one, amoxicillin can do a body good when you have strep throat. Didn't know I had it. Feel better. And a huge announcement that I like to just kick us off, because we like to kick things off sometimes with some good surprises. You don't even know this, but effective immediately, this episode and all episodes now available on closed caption. That is awesome. So great opportunity for everyone to take part, especially for the hearing impaired. Welcome to the CROC Nation.
Awesome, because we're actually going to be starting our podcast today with a continuation of a patient who made a great impact on me and who happens to be handicapped. So last week we started a mod. It's turning into a module about transparency, clarity, and detail, and how that wonderful patient who was blind came into the office, and we started our consultation the same as we start all consultations, getting to know the patient, having the patient get to know us. And we were talking about her sightlessness and all that kind of stuff. And she stopped the consult and she said, "Hey, listen, I just want to announce that it's going to be really important for me, especially since I have no sight, that you really, really slow things down and tell me everything that's going to happen to me in detail, because it will really freak me out if you don't do that." And I, did my usual above and beyond and kind of stopped the world at that point and basically just introduced her to everybody. I went through every step in painful detail, and we walked her over to the accelerator. We walked her over to meet all the people that she was going to be interacting with. We brought her to the CT stimulator. And by the end of her consultation, she said, "Wow, that was such a great experience. Thank you." And it made me stop and think. And I said, "Well, shouldn't we do this for everybody?" And that was really the first module about, how much detail should we be getting into with our patients, and isn't our responsibility. And then during the week, and actually last week, I had promised you that this podcast would be about informed consent, which we will get to. But I thought before we did that, let's talk a little bit about practice proclamations, because in addition to talking about the logistics of clarity, we should also talk about physicians being clear in their own minds what it is that they wish to accomplish in their healing, in their healing practice, what it is that are their personal philosophies. What do they want a patient to come away with after they see them? And actually formally are going to challenge them to put these proclamations down, write them down, and then share them with our patients so they know exactly what they're what they're up against, or what they're going to be getting. Right? What do they say? Let the buyer beware. And I think that would be something that would be fantastic.
I think so too. And, for those of you that are just listening to us for the first time, if you just caught it, when you hear the word modules, I strongly suggest you take a look at our website. Everything will be in the links for the description. And at the very end of today's episode, I'll remind you how to find us and how to go back and look at modules, because it's something that you should definitely take part in. Pick the ones that suit you. We're here for you.
Yeah. And getting back to this particular module about transparency, clarity, and detail, let's get into it. So basically, we had a podcast about the patient who would call on the weekends and say they were running out, or they had run out of their pain medications. And then we had the patient who kept on calling us about his wife, who was not a patient, and kept on asking us questions and that type of thing, and how we needed to set rules and boundaries with him, and as far as setting up rules and boundaries for medications over the weekend. And then I thought to myself, this whole thing with medications, that's kind of what started it all as far as being a little more clear about our practice proclamations. I thought, there's got to be a way where we can actually distill all of the things that I think would be important for our patients to know, and kind of right up front, just lay it on the line like our practice proclamation. And I kind of did one as an example, and we're going to kind of share that. So let's start with medications. It's a really nice, quick podcast, and I think everybody's going to be really, really helped. There will be value to this podcast. So, for example, let's just start with medication. So I have three categories of medication needs. One are patients that have medications that are already on board, that have been prescribed by whatever practitioner. It could be their general practitioner, could be their cardiologist, it could be anybody. And they have medication needs regarding issues that have absolutely nothing to do with their cancer. Now, Angel, you're going to ask me, well, what's the big deal? Obviously, you're not going to renew those medications. Wouldn't that be something that you'd put on your proclamation, that we're not going to renew those medications? And my knee jerk would be, you're absolutely right, Angel. We're not. But Angel, the sad reality is that doctors are so inaccessible and they're so not responsive to their patients. I've had patients begging me just to give them three, blood pressure pills to get them through the weekend, because they called their doctor on Tuesday and they still don't have a script, and it's Friday and they don't want to have a stroke. So these are all the things that are really important when you're putting together your practice proclamation to think about. So ordinarily, I have a rule. If you have a prescription from a doctor, we are not going to renew that medication, not because we're being jerks. It's because it could be dangerous, and you don't want to have multi-pharmacy and all the, polypharmacy. And, we don't want to hurt anybody or be responsible for hurting somebody. But at the same time, we have to have a little bit of, understanding, because as you know, from episode number 3 million, right, we've done so many episodes about that. This medical system is completely broken, and we understand that. And we're here for our cancer patients, for our survivor thrivers. Number two, patients may come into the clinic with pain medications already on board. And I think 90% of the patients that I meet that have pain medications on board are inadequately prescribed. They don't have enough pain medications. And I thought it was just terrible that in oncology, there's such a gap with effective pain medications. So that's something that I would say ordinarily the knee jerk would be, well, you got Percocet from Dr. Santana? We'll call Dr. Santana. But what if it's not working and it's the weekend? What do you do? So you have to be prepared with your practice proclamation on how to manage those types of issues. The one clear part about pain meds from a different practitioner is if they're in a pain clinic. So sometimes patients have such complex pain needs, especially our survivor thrivers, that they even supersede the expertise of a general run-of-the-mill oncologist. Then they have to go to a pain specialist. In those cases, nobody touches those patients because they're on they have contracts with their doctors. They have special, restrictions or whatever, and they could be hurt if somebody comes in and tries to mess up that recipe. So those would be, just to give you guys an example. And then there's the patients that are clearly, on our clock, right? They're on our dime, they're on our time. These are patients that are having side effects related to their radiation, in which case, it's completely and 100% my responsibility to manage those side effects, such as pain. And in those cases, we go through a series of very extensive, questionnaires, and we have to ask a lot of questions, and we have to have a lot of parameters, and the nurse practitioners are tremendous. They do what's called the prescription monitoring program. Not that our survivor thrivers, are wired to try to pull the wool over our eyes, but we still have to ensure that they're not getting the same medications from multiple, physicians. We have had instances of patients, sadly, who weren't doing the right thing with their medications, and they were selling them rather than using them, and then telling us that, their dog ate their medication, or that their medication fell on the toilet, or they don't know how they lost them or whatever. So there's a big responsibility that we have. But our patients, if they're getting my proclamation, they know that if they have medications from another practitioner that are unrelated to their cancer, they need to get them filled by that practitioner. And they also know that we will help them if they're in a pinch. Number two is if they have pain medications from another practitioner, they need to go back to that practitioner. And if things are not being done properly, we need to intervene to some degree as an advocate for the patients. Number three, if the patients require medications to cover them for situations that are incurred from their radiation, that would completely be under our responsibility, with the aforementioned caveats. Medical marijuana, we are big believers in medical marijuana to try to reduce narcotic use. And we have, again, three of the best nurse practitioners who are fantastic managing that. So because this medication subject is so complex, even though I did a podcast on it and we talked about boundaries and rules, and of course, patients have to know that they better know what their pain med needs are before Saturday, because it's going to be hard for them to get a prescription over the weekend. But to put it in writing, to put it as a proclamation, I think is huge. Again, transparency, clarity, and detail. It's really such a war cry for me. I'm like on this bandwagon now. And then when I was thinking about the medications, and I said, maybe we could do more than that. I remember moving into my house in 2010, and the couple that we bought the house from were in their 80s. They're lovely people, personal friends of ours. And of course, they were a little senile, and they had rugs, and they had a cat, and there was cat pee everywhere, staining all the rugs. And I think we literally sat there for maybe 4 years and said, maybe we should do something someday, and try to update the house. And finally, we just got sick and tired, and we started with one room, and we took the rug up and got rid of the cat pee and put down these beautiful wood floors. And then all of a sudden it became contagious. It was like the measles. You see the one little spot on little Ariel's face, and then the second spot and the third spot. And then all of a sudden, the living room, and then the bedroom, and then the kitchen, and then the bathrooms. And $3 million later, we made, all these changes. And I think it's the same with our practice proclamations. I just stopped with medications, or telling patients, what our comfort zones are, what their responsibilities are as it relates to that. Let's become more ambitious. Let's go further. Let's go to the next level. And let's actually go backwards instead of going forwards. Let's actually start at the beginning. So as doctors and healthcare personnel and caregivers and caretakers of our survivor thrivers, we usually, not always, but usually are working for a bigger institution. We're not just in our own little world, in our own little room. I mean, I know some practitioners probably are private practitioners. They have their own little practice, maybe a family practitioner that doesn't go to a hospital or whatever. But generally, we're associated with some healthcare system. Angel and I are associated with Garnet Health Medical Center. So the Garnet Health banner is our healthcare system. And we have multiple locations, inpatient, 2 hospitals, probably about 1 trillion outpatient centers, and, associated members of that community. And Angel, when you walk around the hospitals and all these clinics, that when you're doing your rounds and walking around, you see all the mission statements are everywhere. You see all their value statements. You see everything. They have corporate structure. They have a schema of who to report to. I mean, it's a really big deal. And I thought to myself, well, to be honest with you, if the place that we work in have these badges of identity, why don't we, as practitioners, have these badges of identity? And I'm going to get to the importance of having this identity for clarity for our patients. Because after all, Angel, at the end of the day, right, we sign all the charts. It's our reputation that's at stake. It's our ASS, that's responsible. Even if a nurse makes a mistake or somebody makes a mistake, it's always, on us. If a therapist in my department makes a mistake, it's always on me. It's the captain of the ship syndrome. And because really, if you want to be honest about it, it's because of the talents of my colleagues, of these practitioners, of these doctors, of these nurses, of these healthcare professionals, of these advanced care practitioners. It's their talents and in their leadership that runs these hospitals. It's not the administrators. It's not the middle management. It's not, anybody. It's not the vendors. It's the doctors and the nurses, that really lead. And why does the hospital have all of these, proclamations and we don't? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And with such a responsibility that we have on our shoulders and the stressful life that we live because of that responsibility, and it's a burden, a responsibility and a burden on us that, I don't know any of my colleagues who don't think about the bad outcomes or the patients that didn't do well or the patients that recurred or the patients that had side effects. We could cure 1 million people, but the things that'll keep us awake are the 3 people that were hurt by our treatments, even if we did everything perfectly. And because of that burden, shouldn't we define what it is that's important to us, to not only to identify it, but to proclaim it and to write it down and to share it with our patients? And I kind of got this by being so lucky to serve our cancer survivor thrivers for 25 years, as an advocate, as a grassroots cancer survivorship organization with CROC, that we put together a mission statement. We put together the 4 pillars, of our organization. We put a power of survivor equation. We have a mantra. We have a vision statement. We have a value statement. We have a goal statement. We have a culture statement. Now, I'm not going to get into that tonight because we've done it multiple times and you can find it on the website. But to be honest with you guys, that is me telling you guys, you should do that. You don't have to be as fancy as we are. You don't have to be as formal as we are. And you don't have to be as wordy as you guys know I am, as we are. But you really should, because it's going to help you and it's going to help your patients. Because if your patients know who you are and what you're about, that's going to help them get to know you. And it's going to put clarity to what it is you're trying to do for them. And if they understand that, seldom do I have patients who really know who their doctors are as people. Seldom do I ever meet a patient who really knows what their doctors or their nurses, where they stand as far as in their healing practice. And once that's done, Angel, and once we've defined our pillars and we've defined these pillars which form the foundation of the house of healing that we want to open up to our fellow brothers and sisters, the rest is really easy. And you know what we say on the CROC podcast, we just have to keep it simple. So let's just break it down into a few subcategories. In your proclamation, we did the logistics last week. So that's really being in detail, telling the patients what to expect, like from a step-by-step, inch by inch, rundown of what they're going to be getting into if they get chemotherapy or if they have surgery or if they have radiation. And then we're going to talk about informational. So that's when you really have your consult. And Angel, you would be shocked. When you talk about cancer, the first thing you think about as a layperson is, what is the stage of your cancer? And if you don't know what a stage is, the words, did it spread? Is it in your bones? Did it go to your organs? Is it, did that your cancer get out of its original spot? So that's staging. How few patients come to me, because don't forget, they are referred to me from another oncologist, whether it be a surgical oncologist or a medical oncologist. They don't know what their prognosis is. What is prognosis? It means, how are they going to do? What's their 5-year survival rate? They shouldn't be asking the radiation oncologist what their stage is. They should not be asking their radiation oncologist what their prognosis is. But if they don't know it, guess what? They will know it when they leave our office, and they have to know it when they leave your office. We have to also talk about their disease. What's the natural history of their breast cancer? What's the natural history of their prostate cancer, their colorectal cancer? How did they get it? Sometimes it's really simple. Smoking causes lung cancer and head and neck cancer. Human papillomavirus causes some head and neck cancers and cervical cancers. But some are not as clear, and sometimes we don't have an answer, but that's okay as long as we're talking about it and we sort of have this as our checklist of what we talk about when we do these things, when we do these consults for patients. We have to talk about side effects. We not only have to talk about the acute side effects of treatment, the treatment side effects that they're going to see in the day-to-day radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery, but how about 2 months after, 3 months after, 6 months after, 1 year after, 5 years after, 10 years after, 25 years after? I've seen patients have side effects come up way down the line and they have no idea. Hey, doc, remember me? You treated me 7 years ago. I got up this morning and I went to pee and blood came out. I think I have cancer again. No, you don't have cancer. You have cystitis, probably from the radiation. Come on in. We'll get you to the urologist. They'll do a scope and they'll take care of it. Nothing to worry about. They should know that. They should, when they pee blood, they should say, oh, yeah, he told me probably, some cystitis. Let me give them a call. Let's figure it out. They need to know these things. We've done a module on communication. How does your patient get in touch with you if they have a question? How do they reach you? Do you have an on-call service? Do you have a cell phone, a call cell phone? Do you have someone answering phones for you? Do you have an office manager? You might want to also let them know how you're going to catch up with them, or how they want to catch up with you and tell you how they're doing. They might want to drop you a note just to tell you how they're doing. They may have moved out of state and they have some information they want to put in to give you, so you know what's going on with them, to put in the chart. How do they do that? They have to know that in my department, they're going to be seen at least once a week by myself or the nurse practitioners. They need to know that. Like the first time they come in and walk in a room and it's their first week of treatment and they see a nurse practitioner, they need to know that. They also need to know there's a couple of patients, not a couple, I mean a couple of types of patients that may see me at consultation and they may not see me until they ring the bell. If someone's doing fantastic and they only have 5 days of radiation or 16 days of radiation and they're not having any problems or issues, they may not see me. It would be like, yeah, Ian Ellie, I think I saw him on the first day. Am I ever going to see him again? They need to know that, right? Otherwise their expectations are going to be, they're not going to have a good experience. They're going to say, the guy I first saw who was so nice and told me all these great things, like he disappeared. Like, what did he do? Did he go to Europe? Was he on a slow boat to Bangkok? Where did the guy go? And they need to know that. They also need to know that if they have a problem, they can call me anytime. If they want to talk baseball, they can call me anytime. If they just want to call to tell me, what's going on, they can do that too. But what they can't do is call me at 5 o'clock in the morning to ask me a question about their Tylenol. And that was a podcast too. So we'll get to that when we go to rules and boundaries. So that's that with communication. Another thing is, you're not going to connect with everybody, right? You're going to connect with some people more than others. And if you happen to have a really great connection, it'll be a cool thing to do, because you'll find yourself saying, hey, how's that guy, Angel Santana? I love taking care of him. We used to talk about the Mets, and we used to love to talk about food and groundhogs and, all sorts of different things. And all of a sudden, like, I haven't seen him. Well, give him a call, put it in your little iCal. Call Angel Santana. Let's see how's he doing? Is he doing well? So these are all things when it comes to communication. Advocacy. We want to be the people that not only take care of them expertly and help heal them expertly, but also make their life easier, be an advocate for them, not only to help them with their fears and let them know they can contact us if they have anxiety or issues, but maybe refer them to a mental health practitioner, or if they have undue anxiety, help them with some medications or some medical marijuana or whatever. Once they're done with treatment, every patient should have a survivorship plan. You can't just let them just kind of hang out in the wind like they're on a clothes drying line. You have to say, listen, here's the cancer, here's what we did, this is our expectations, this is what you're going to be feeling for the next couple of weeks, here's when you're coming in next, here's the medications you're on, here's what's gonna, and again, clarity, comprehension, details, transparency. These are really all important stuff. So the survivorship planning, when their next follow-up is, rules and boundaries. We laughed about a couple of these things. Don't call me on a Saturday that you're out of your medications. You should have known this on Tuesday. But don't call me at 5. You call me at 5 o'clock in the morning if you have a 5 o'clock in the morning problem. Don't call me at 5 o'clock in the morning because you're awake and you just had nothing else to do, and it could wait till 9 o'clock. Don't do that either. Be smart. Use your common sense. Common sense. The golden rule. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Right. That's the thing. Talk about what the content is of some of the things you can help them with after hours. Like you can help them out with many things. Anxiety, questions about their treatments. But maybe you don't want to help them out trying to answer questions about their wife, who's not even your patient, who has a disease you've never heard of. We did a podcast on that too. And then them getting angry at you because you're not giving them the answers that they want to hear. So, again, those are your rules and boundaries. We're going to talk about informed consent. We did a whole module, as Angel said, you could go back to, on shared decision making, which was huge and very important in your care. And lastly, resources. You have to share resources with your patients. You have to share, the websites and, the American Cancer Society or the American Lung Cancer Society. A lot of my patients love the pancreatic cancer organization, just to give you one that sticks out of my mind. Support groups. A lot of people hate support groups. The majority of our patients love support groups, but they don't know where to go. Give them a couple of ideas, give them some resources. Podcasts. I'm guilty as sin. I don't even share my podcast with my patients. They need to know in my proclamation that this is a resource for them. YouTube, those types of things. And those are, really the things that are, I think, that's my practice proclamation. So to end the podcast, again, we don't want to just, come up with issues or problems. We want to tell you how you can solve this. How do you share? Once you come up with your practice proclamation, how do you share it? So I want you to scream it from the rooftops. I want you to use smoke signals or anything else. You can use the Pony Express. I don't care what you do, but you gotta get it out there so your patients know. You can give them handouts. You can give them magnets. Those magnets with your proclamations, with your contact information, with how to get in touch with you. You can give them a little thumb drive. And for God's sake, it's 2024. Make a website. Everybody's got a website. My kids have websites. I don't even know why, but they have a website. You need a website. We have a website. Rod, call Rod. Call Small Biz Up. Rod will get a website going for you. No problem. Angel Santana, that was a cute little podcast. What are your thoughts?
I listen, it's always fun to do something new. Even it feels like it's new every time we do something on this show. But I think that for me, in the non-cancer role and someone who has not had cancer, looking at it from the outside, I think the biggest part, they're all important. But I think what struck home to me was the communication. Because as we know, what I do for a living, I take a lot of the calls that come in, and the number one issue that we had for a while was prescriptions, and it was just a lack of communication on both parts. But once we got the lines of communication available, patients were able to understand where they can get a prescription refill when they were close to the end or even in the middle of the end. So again, I'm just picking out one of the good things you brought up. But I think communication is the overall key.
Beautiful. And you know what? I just was thinking about all this, the communication is key and all these types of things. Please share this with your survivor thrivers. Please share this with your patients. it's absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. Oh, the one thing that I forgot to mention, the My Chart. Make sure that your patients know how to get on My Chart so they can see their results. And
Right.
hopefully they won't see the results before you call to tell them the results. We did a module on that as well. To end the podcast with first my pep talk. I just want to let you guys know, our survivor thrivers out there, you know how we feel about you. We know that we know how special you are. We know how brave and courageous you are, and how intelligent you are, and how absolutely valuable and worthy you are. And sometimes you guys don't realize and recognize the things that we already know about you. And that's why we do this podcast, is to reinforce and reframe your perspective, because you really are worthy of having a practitioner who has a practice proclamation. And with this practice proclamation, you will get to know your doctor and nurses, what their thoughts are about what their philosophy is in their healing mission, in their healing practice, how they go about doing their jobs. And what their job is to cure you of your cancer and make your life comfortable and make your quality of life better, and to take away any fear and apprehension that you might have. Many of us, most of us, 99% of us, have not really even thought about this. We have not even formally tried to put our thoughts into words or onto a website or onto a thumb drive. And I think it's important that we share this information with you, because you deserve to know who it is that's taking care of you. You have somebody who's absolutely just going to ignore your calls when you call for pain meds, or you're going to have someone who's going to just yell at you if you call them after hours, or you're going to have someone who is not going to recommend any resources. And another thing I think we forgot, Angel, is alternative care, complementary, supplementary, medical medicine, information for patients as well. So, are you guys how do you feel about that? Are you going to yell at somebody because they want to go to someone who does Reiki or go to a nutritional therapist? I mean, these are all things you should know about your practitioner. So I really hope that this podcast resonates with you and allows you to know how special you are and how you are entitled to this information. And we will formally end the podcast as we end every single podcast, and that is with the CROC blessing. On behalf of Angel and the board of directors, we wish all of you, each one of our survivor thrivers, a long, healthy, happy, and cancer-free life. God bless you. God be with you. Peace.